Destiny 2 did not just get a final update, it got a farewell. And for a game like this, that is complicated, because Destiny 2 was never just one thing. For some players, it was the game where they found their friends. For others, it was the game that burned them out. For some, it was unforgettable raids, incredible music, perfect feeling gunplay, and years of memories. For others, it was content vaulting, monetization frustration, seasonal fatigue, and a relationship with Bungie that never fully healed. So when Bungie launched Monument of Triumph, the final planned live service content update for Destiny 2, the reaction was never going to be simple. Players came back, Steam numbers surged, creators got emotional, old guardians logged in again, not just to grind one more reward, but to stand inside a game that had been part of their lives for nearly a decade. But the question underneath all of that is bigger than one update. After everything, was Destiny 2 worth it in the end? That is the story, not just the patch notes, not just the final reward pass, not just the return of old activities. The real story is what this moment reveals about the players who stayed, the players who left, and the game that somehow became both a legendary success and a cautionary tale at the same time. On May 21st, 2026, Bungie announced that Destiny 2 would receive one final live service content update before active development ends. That update, Monument of Triumph, launched on June 9th. And to be clear, Destiny 2 is not shutting down. The game remains playable. Existing content and the new updates stay available. But Bungie has said there are no more planned live service content updates after this. That makes Monument of Triumph less like a normal patch and more like a closing chapter. The update brought back major pieces of the game's history. Pantheon returned permanently. Sparrow Racing League returned permanently. Weekly raid and dungeon rotations came back. There were new and reprised weapons, armor updates, ornaments, vault space changes, reward systems, sandbox tuning, and new story moments. In other words, Bungie did not just flip the lights off. They gave the community one last celebration, and that is why the player reaction has been so emotional. For a lot of longtime players, this feels like walking through a place you used to live. You remember the raid nights, the clan chats, the first clears, the weapons you chased for weeks, the friends you made because one game kept giving people a reason to log in. That is the positive side of Destiny 2's legacy. It built community in a way very few games ever do. There are players who genuinely feel like Destiny changed their life. There are creators whose entire careers were built around this game. There are friendships, memories, jokes, raid teams, and late nights attached to these worlds. That is why the final update hit so hard. It was not just, here is more loot. It was, here is one last reason to gather, one last reason to remember why this game mattered. And that matters because live service games usually do not get clean endings. They fade, they lose players, they get smaller, they become background noise. Destiny 2, at least in this moment, got something closer to a send-off. But this is where the story gets complicated, because the same players who love Destiny 2 also remember what hurt. Content vaulting is one of the biggest wounds. Large parts of the game were removed over time, and for many players, that changed the relationship forever. It made Destiny feel less permanent, less like a world that was growing, and more like a world where memories could be taken away. Then there was the monetization, the Eververse frustration, the silver conversations, the feeling that every new era of the game came with another layer of systems, purchases, passes, and grind. And even when the actual gameplay was strong, players were often exhausted by the machine around it. That is the tension. Destiny 2 had some of the best feeling action in gaming, but it also became a symbol of live service fatigue. A game players loved enough to criticize for years. A game players quit, returned to, quit again, defended, complained about, and still somehow cared about when the final update arrived. Real quick, if you like clear gaming breakdowns that explain what players are actually feeling without turning everything into rage bait, hit the like button and subscribe to GamingRealm. Because this is exactly the kind of story where the patch notes do not tell the full truth. The patch note says, Monument of Triumph launched. The player sentiment says an era is ending, and those are not the same thing. The community reaction right now seems split into a few emotional camps. The first camp is grateful. These are the players looking back at Destiny 2 as one of the most important games they ever played. They know it had problems. They know Bungie made decisions that frustrated people, but they also know that no other game gave them the same combination of gunplay, raids, music, lore, and social connection. For them, Monument of Triumph feels like a proper goodbye. The second camp is exhausted, but respectful. These players may not want to defend every decision Bungie made, but they still respect what Destiny 2 was. They logged in because they wanted closure. They wanted to see the final update. They wanted one last moment with a game that had been part of their routine for years. Then there is the burned camp. And honestly, their frustration is understandable. For these players, the final update does not erase the years of trust issues. It does not bring back everything that was vaulted. It does not undo the burnout. It does not make the monetization conversations disappear. To them, Destiny 2 ending this way is not just emotional. It is proof that the live service promise is fragile, because live service games often sell the idea of forever. A world that keeps growing, a game that keeps evolving, a universe that never really ends. But Destiny 2 shows the other side of that promise. Eventually, the schedule becomes heavy. The content treadmill gets exhausting. Player trust gets tested too many times. And even a beloved game can reach a point where the best thing to do is stop adding more. That is why Destiny 2's legacy is so interesting. It is not just a success story, and it is not just a failure story. It is both. It proved that a live service game could create a massive, loyal, emotionally invested community. It also proved how hard that model is to sustain without burning players out. It gave people unforgettable memories. It also took things away. It built trust. It broke trust. It created some of the most meaningful cooperative moments in modern gaming. And it also became one of the clearest examples of why players are tired of games that feel like second jobs. So, was Destiny 2 worth it? For many players, the answer is yes. Not because every year was perfect, not because every system worked, not because Bungie always got it right, but because the memories were real. The friendships were real. The raids were real. The feeling of being there at the right moment, with the right group, chasing something together, was real. For others, the answer is harder. They may respect the game's impact while still feeling like Destiny 2 asked too much from them. Too much money, too much time, too much trust, too much patience. That is what makes this ending feel honest. Destiny 2 does not leave behind a clean legacy. It leaves behind a human one. Messy, emotional, contradictory, loved and resented at the same time. And maybe that is the most accurate ending this game could have. A final update that brings players back, not because everything is forgiven, but because even the frustrated players know this game mattered. Now the question becomes what happens next. Will Destiny 2 keep a stable legacy community in maintenance mode? Will players continue running raids, chasing cosmetics, and using the game as a social space? Will Bungie's future projects be judged under the shadow of Destiny's highs and lows? And will the industry learn the right lesson from this? Because the lesson should not be that live service games are impossible. Destiny 2 proved they can matter. The lesson is that live service games need trust. They need respect for player time. They need permanence. They need to understand that players do not just invest money into these worlds, they invest years of their lives. And when a game reaches the end of active development, players are not only asking what content was added, they are asking what the journey meant. That is why Monument of Triumph feels bigger than an update. It is a celebration. It is a retirement party. It is a thank you. It is a reminder of everything Destiny 2 did right. And it is also a reminder of everything that made players tired. So, was Destiny 2 worth it in the end? The answer depends on what part of the journey you remember most. The raids, the friends, the music, the grind, the vaulting, the burnout, the comeback moments, the disappointments, the feeling of logging in one last time because even after everything, you still wanted to be there. That is Destiny 2's legacy. Not perfect, not simple, but impossible to ignore. That's the story in Gaming Realm. Drop your thoughts below. Was Destiny 2 worth it in the end? Did Monument of Triumph give the game the goodbye it deserved? Or does the ending prove how complicated the live service model really is? And what game should Gaming Realm break down next?